Hello there, and welcome to 5 tips and tricks for building your science facilities on Fulgora. In this video, I'm going to summarize the things that I have learned and understood while I was clanking my way through this madness here. I also am providing the blueprint for this facility in the topmost comment if you just want to have a quick fix for your Fulgora science problems. This is a low-cost build that yields 50 to 60 science per minute, depending on your module usage and such things. So it's very easy, and you just need to put in scrap up here, and the rest will happen automatically after you have set up all the parts. But the video itself, like I said, I want to focus on the things that might help you to design a bigger and better facility than this one. So, number one, the very first fundamental thing that is, to me personally, important on Fulgora: scrap away what you don't need in your current build. If you are building a mall, you will be using most, if not all, of the parts, but if you are using a science build, you won't be using the low-density structures, so scrap away. You won't be using the steel, so scrap away. Really, every single material that is not used should be scrapped away, and the ones that are used but not in the quantity at which they are generated, as you see here, I have a back loop system which feeds my facility here with the ice that is necessary while scrapping away, which is too much. This thing is connected with a little wire that lets it destroy ice if the content of the chest ever exceeds 100 pieces. So this way we have a nice control over things, and whatever you don't need should be, just like I said, scrapped away. So altogether you have, therefore, a couple of things that you always will have to destroy. So, brings me just right to the next part. Number two, I want to talk about the recurring building parts that are always around in these builds. That is, for one, the first part is always going to be a recycling and sorting facility. This thing here eats up 30 pieces of scrap a second and cranks out, yeah, whatever scrap comes out. The scrap calculation, I warmly recommend to take yourself a sheet of paper or a calculator, add in all those numbers together, and then you know what one recycler produces. The problem is just, this is a fluctuating number. As you are increasing your productivity, the productivity of your recyclers will change. And sadly, I hope Wooby fixes this one day, that we'll see how many items one of these bad boys cranks out on the table. Whatever might be the case, what you have recycled, you shall sort. So this is a very simple sorting machine where I just put in these two belts together on one blue belt, and then we are sorting. This facility here cranks out roughly 40-ish pieces of scrap per second, so the blue belt suffices. Then we send up all the pieces where they need to go, and that makes up the first part of your facility. However you sort, you will need to sort. There's different ways of doing it. Here I went for a simple sushi belt method. This is not too good for bigger throughputs, but for small facilities it really works a charm. You can upscale these, and well, there's methods. I just want to say you won't be able to avoid sorting. It's just not possible. The second part of your industry of your facility will then be the processing and destroying facility. So this is where you will eat up most of your space for your facility. This is the areas where you melt ice to water, which I happen to make here. This is the areas where you process your holmium and your rock into fluids, all these little processing areas, and of course the areas where you start scrapping things and void them. The latter part is eating up the most area, and one thing that I will warmly recommend to you is bring the recycling part as close together, as organized, bundled together as you can, and leave it expandable if possible. Have one direction open where you can add in more recyclers. With the nature of the Fulgorian Islands as it is, this is easier said than done, but as you see here, this build has the recyclers all over the place, which is, in all the spaghettification, though, a very compact footprint, but this is not expendable. You could in all honesty, only clamp down another one of these facilities. You couldn't really expand this facility. To avoid this, have your destruction area somewhere else. But I really like this build for being like a good starter facility that cranks out a good amount of science. The third part of your facility is the smallest part. This is the assembly. Here is where you make the supercapacitors and all these items and finally transform them into science. It happens here on two different areas. Here's the accumulators, which are made out of batteries and iron plates, which you need to make somehow. Iron gear wheels are your best friends. And then you just set these things together. The assembly part is the smallest part and can be just, well, put somewhere where it doesn't need too much room, because like I said, this is, compared to the rest of the facility, a third or even only a quarter, depending on your facilities. Number 3 of this thing, the items that are really ideally imported and used for this build from other planets, or, well, you should be preparing. So first up, Volcanus items are really top notch here. The foundry is your best friend in the Holmium production. It cuts down on the number of facilities you need, and it also has a productivity bonus of 50%, which is really hard to beat. You just get more plate out of your solution, which is just an excellent thing. The other thing to import are big drills. The big drills play an integral role on this planet. Not so much because you wouldn't be getting enough scrap out of your regular electric mining drill. The big drill's main advantage lies in the fact that Fulgoran scrapyards have this nasty ability to be very small. For example, when you look at this here, where I extract these, we can only look at it on the map. But as you see there, this is really one heck of a small patch. The big drills do not only deplete your patch slower, they have also a incredible mining speed. And if you compare them to a regular mining machine, they can also pack in more modules. A regular machine has 3 module slots, whereas the big mining drills, if I remember correctly, 4. Yes. So it's just way to go. You get more scrap out of your territory, and at the end of the day, you can only build as big as you have scrap per second. This is what it boils down to. And the last, most integral part that I personally can't build these without, speed modules. Speed modules lessen the footprint of your recyclers tremendously. So basically, wherever something backs up, first try if you can't smack in some speed modules to speed up the process. I found these invaluable. Tier 2s suffice. Tier 3s are of course better if you can build them, that is. But I didn't want to include any parts into this build which are too hard to achieve. It's that hard, but I guess a lot of people won't have access to tier 3 speed modules at this point. Either way, it is wonderful to keep these facilities smaller, because in all seriousness, room is often one of the problems on Fulgora in general. So these 3 items are actually all you need to. A honorable mention goes out to the turbo transport builds. These are amazing because of the sheer amount of clutter that you need to manage. You don't need terrible amounts of turbo transport build parts. Most of these will go into the recycling area of your facility, which will also be a third or a quarter of your facility. Again, you don't need too many of these builds, but they are incredibly useful. So that's that. Number 4. You will always require more room if you want to have a expandable base. This means your organization should always end up with having the recycling part as the expendable part, whereas the other parts of your facility can be littered all over the board as they are relatively small. You also can bring up these areas here with usage of modules to more productivity, so there are options. But at the end of the day, I want to really stress out how many problems I had with this build because I didn't organize my recycling area correctly. The most challenging part about the science facility is, in my opinion at least, getting rid of all the trash. So bundling and getting rid of that trash in an organized way is really good. So here goes the list. You don't need low density structures, you don't need steel, you only need a slight portion of iron here. You can get all the green circuits and plastic out of the circuit recycling. And to get rid of concrete faster, it is a really nasty trick to transform that stuff first into hazard concrete before you recycle it. That's because the recyclers always take the crafting time of the item into account when it comes down to the question how long they take until they can recycle it. Since you can transform concrete into hazard concrete really quick, you can destroy at least the hazard concrete super quick, and you just need to work with the leftovers. This is a really easy trick to lower the amount of this, but recycling sucks, all right? It's a pain, but if you respect your logistical footprint and organize it in a direction where you can always add in a little bit more, you're golden. Number 5, Holmium and scalability. The ironic part of many of these facilities is that they have a upper limit. So, for example, this facility can only grow as big as I have Holmium solution producible. It's a very simple equation because you overproduce everything else before you have the Holmium production. This is the lowest, this is the bottleneck basically of all your productions, and therefore the funny part is, I personally wouldn't recommend building a huge science base on Fulgora in general, but rather would recommend building lots of these small ones wherever you have access to a scrapyard that you want to transform into science. Simply because you are so limited in room, you can extract only a certain amount of scrap from these areas. So I want to illustrate this a little bit more precisely and drive down here. This is because of the size of the scrapyards. You will be limited to the scrap per second there, but obviously you can upgrade the output of your big mining drills via modules and everything. But at the end of the day, as you can see here, I am only putting up here 16 of these bad boys. That's that. I mean, every one of these has a production of 7.5 units of scrap per second. But at the end of the day, there is a hard limit in terms of what you can achieve by the number of Holmium. And therefore, my personal recommendation would be to calculate how much Holmium you can produce on your facility and scale it in that accordance. Personally, I think this planet is only suitable for mega science complexes as soon as you have beaten Aquilo and you got access to the foundation technology, allowing you to produce to just use the territory to your own liking. But before that, seriously, don't plan too big. It's just not worth it. You should plan as big as you have Holmium available, and that is the limiting factor of all your facilities. My personal verdict about that. So, thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful for you. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know what kind of extra tips and tricks you would have. I hope the blueprint helps out for those who just don't have it in themselves to build things like these. I totally understand it. And let me know in the comment section if it was helpful for you. Love to hear that. And that all being said, leave a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and check out the description box. You'll find a playlist link to all my other Factorio videos there for Space Age. Among these, I also have a Gleba tutorial where I have a blueprint for the science there as well. Maybe you want to check that out too. So, thanks for watching yet again. Thanks for the support, you all out there who are supporting the channel. And many thanks for watching this video up until the very end. May the electromagnetic science be with you, and the factory must grow. See you soon.